Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to the CPG Guys podcast. I'm, of course, Sri, one of the aforementioned CPG guys. My co-host, PVSB, also known as Peter V.S. Bond, and the VP of Commercial Strategy at Fetch Rewards, a mobile loyalty platform, is unable to join us today due to an unexpected family commitment. So I will be hosting the episode by myself and reminding everybody the Yankees rock, the Dodgers are only second best, and since Peter isn't here, this can't even be edited out of the script that's going to follow through in the final recording. At 47-16, this is our year, the Yankees' year. Nobody's even a close second best, not the Mets, not the Dodgers, and we just can't seem to lose. Of course, I don't want to jinx it all up because Peter and I are going to the All-Star game, the home run derby, and then what happens in the second half of the season decides everybody's fate. But before we get to our guests, I'll remind our audience that all of our content can be found by simply visiting cpgguys.com. We have a brand new website with all sorts of rich content, including a merch store. Y'all told us, I don't know why, but y'all told us you'd love to buy our water bottles. You'd love to buy t-shirts with Peter and my face on it. Sometimes it's comical, but we have fun now that you told us we actually have those things. And also episodes organized into themes like retail media, loyalty, etc. Sign up there for a soon-to-be-released forthcoming newsletter. If you aren't already following us on LinkedIn, there's an easy way. Just go to a browser, just go to linkedin.com, type CPG Guys in the search box. When you get to our page, simply click the blue plus button, which is follow. That way you'll get to see all of the content we produce. And the best thing about it, there is no subscription fees to join us and this large community, which is growing every single day. So thank you for the 14K plus fans on LinkedIn, the countless listeners we have to the podcast. It's always been about the education and sharing journey, and Peter and I promise you it's going to remain that way. Remember to check out the FMCG Guys podcast hosted by friends Daniel and Efrain. They take the CPG Guys podcast format across the pond and speak to retail and FMCG luminaries from a European perspective. All you have to do, visit fmcgguys.com. We're also proud to partner with Next Up, also known as the Network of Executive Women, or formerly known as the Network of Executive Women, whose mission it is to advance all women in business and to promote the cause of gender equality and career development. Visit nextupisnow.org and /CPG Guys to learn more about this great group. In the middle of Wednesday episodes, you can find right here on the CPG Guys show an Easter egg on their upcoming seminars and events. We're proud that we have our own page now on Next Up is Now. Of course, Peter and I are honored that our podcast attracts so many omnichannel leaders from brands, retailers, and today we're pleased to have one such guest. She's the head of e-commerce for Anheuser-Busch to decompose all things digital, omnichannel, e-commerce. Join me in welcoming to the podcast, Carolyn Brown. Greetings. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, Sri, so much for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to join you guys.
And I'm looking forward. It's been a while since we had somebody from beverage categories. So, Carolyn, before we get to those questions, can we first have you tell our audience where they can learn more about Anheuser-Busch and then a brief overview of what you and your team does?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can learn more about AB by visiting www.anheuser-busch.com. If you need help with spelling, Google can help you. And there you can learn more about our portfolio of more than 200 brands across the U.S., our company culture, AB in the news, our involvement with local communities, and of course, our principles and mission, which is to build a future with more cheers. And so a little bit about my journey with AB. I've been here for over 11 years. I've been working in e-commerce for the past 6.5 years, which I like to say was basically the beginning of time for BevAlc e-commerce, or at least at AB in 2016 when I joined the US e-com team. So my team currently sits within the US sales organization, and we lead our e-retail business, our e-category development. We have a regional strategy. We look at e-commerce for Beyond Beer. So that's our wine, spirits, and non-alc portfolio, which actually have unique routes to market versus traditional beer. And we also have an arm that works on our tech development. So it's definitely been an exciting time to be in this role, but I'm actually about to start a new role leading commerce marketing. which is a relatively new team within the marketing connections organization, where I'll oversee the integration of digital marketing and media strategy to create one connected commerce strategy. The idea there is for our commercial organization to bring together sales and marketing so we work much more closely together. And I'll also lead our direct-to-consumer merchandise team, which is a super important channel for us since we follow the 3-tier system and we can't actually sell beer directly to consumers.
I'll come back and we'll learn more about the 3-tier system in just a bit. But thank you for that, Carolyn. We'll include hyperlinks to the site address you mentioned. And of course, our episode digital liner notes. So let me jump right in. And the first one is all about you, as we do here on the CPG Guys, our guest. Your story starts at Princeton University in arts and history, and you've been here at AB for 11 years. Now, a digital commerce leader here doing amazing things right at the intersection of selling, marketing, and the consumer. Decompose this journey, how you got from Princeton to here for our audience, and tell us how you got to this current role.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite a journey, and I often get asked the question of why a degree in history. And it's honestly because, first of all, I'm a total nerd and I love American history. But I think that part of what I like so much about it is it's really an exercise in understanding human interactions, reactions, interpretations, and that actually connects with why I think I have become so passionate about the beer industry and CPG generally, and especially now in e-commerce, because every day I feel challenged by trying to understand why people make the decisions they make, looking at historic behavior, thinking about how future generations are going to shop differently than their parents did. And so that's why I really have enjoyed working in e-commerce. So knowing that maybe in another life, I'd be a psychologist. But my journey at AB has also been unique. So I started in a rotational training program called the Global Management Trainee Program. And then I moved into a variety of different roles across the commercial organization. Procurement, where I was actually buying technology, which I had no idea would come full circle 5 years later, now that I'm working on the digital side of things. Then I actually moved into category management, worked in trade marketing, and then, as I mentioned, in 2016, was asked to join the e-com team, which at the time was within ZX Ventures, which is our growth and investment division within AB. And since then, I've had the amazing privilege of building out a team of over 25 e-commerce experts. And between 2019 to now, I've actually helped the team along a journey to fully integrate e-commerce into the U.S. sales organization, coming out of that sort of incubation and startup phase within ZX Ventures and moving into the broader North America zone team, where, through doing that, we were able to not only gain some focus, but also a ton of credibility for our expertise. And it's also helped us gain investment for this growing sales channel.
How cool is it to host somebody on the show as a guest who actually has a arts and history degree, has been through all the experiences that you have, was bold enough to go experiment different things, take different roles, different functions, and now actually leading that digital journey, which is the closest journey to the consumer. We're happy to have you on, but most of all, congratulations for that journey and achieving so much in such a short duration, which leads me to, why is digital commerce a priority for Anheuser-Busch in these times? Is it e-commerce like lower funnel stuff, or does it have broader omnichannel drivers?
Yeah, so it's absolutely a broader omni-channel discussion, and that has a major drive, especially now. In 2020, in 2021, of course, times changed really fast, and during that time, especially, the number one question that our sales teams were getting asked by retail leaders was, how can we effectively scale beer within their e-retail offerings? A lot of retailers had already started to dabble, whether it was in partnering with an Instacart or creating their own .com site, pickup delivery, third-party marketplace, even leveraging digital shelf for in-store shoppers. But that's become increasingly important. we need to make sure that we're using all of these digital touch points as, as shoppers are making purchase decisions. We need to make sure that we have a presence there. And so AB has really increased our focus and overall investment in a big way over the past 2 years. And in my new role, we'll actually be working to build even further integration and a total connected commerce investment strategy across media, brand marketing, shopper marketing, and in partnership with the retail teams to make sure we're accomplishing those joint business planning goals that they have. And really, at the end of the day, all this comes down to it being about what consumers and shoppers want and need. And we have to fulfill those needs in order to sell more of our brands. And so it doesn't matter what channel they're shopping in. We need to make sure that we're serving the needs of those customers.
Oh, you'll never get a debate from me that you have to fulfill the needs of the consumer, aka the shopper in this case, to give them the brand of choice that they vote for. In your case, for Anheuser-Busch brands, no matter what channel they're shopping. I also want to congratulate you for the new role, so we're going to decompose that in a little bit. So if we talk about prioritization, I mean, you've clearly now stated that e-commerce and digital commerce and omnichannel is a priority for Anheuser-Busch. So I want to jump into a handful of capabilities. Ratings and reviews, content, these often tend to be the tailing capabilities as opposed to the leading. Search happens to be the leading. Do you believe that these two have an equal importance with search? Are they equally important such as ratings and reviews and content have the same weight, or all these things different?
I actually stand behind the belief that the digital shelf and getting the fundamentals right, as well as enhanced content on the digital shelf, should be the number one priority of any organization looking to advance their e-commerce and omni-channel capabilities. We believe that digital content, digital shelf, includes ratings and reviews. And so looking at that, it's, this is one of the most critical things to get right into the realm of e-com and omni-channel. And more than 60% of people say they're using some sort of digital touch point when they're making shopping decisions, whether that's in-store or shopping online. And so getting the right content in front of shoppers as they make these decisions is super critical to ensure that our brands are top of mind. And not only the key brand facts, but we also now have the opportunity to speak to and connect with our consumers in such a more meaningful way using enhanced content versus in the old days when you only had the physical shelf, all you had was that cardboard box or that can or whatever physical piece of point of sale material you could put at the shelf. And with that, talking about needing the customer to want your product and really being customer first, ratings and reviews are, of course, a critical piece of that because, honestly, Amazon and other major retailers have conditioned us as consumers to trust our peers more than anyone else, more than what a brand tells us, more than what a retailer is telling us. And so with that, we need to use ratings and reviews to make sure that our products are speaking to consumers in the right way. And then, people are going to use that as a benchmark for what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy.
We had someone from Walmart on the show recently who did say to our audience that over 80% of people in store standing in front of a shelf actually whip out the app, whip out their phone, and they're actually browsing while they're in front of a shelf. So the number one thing that does drive success from a brand perspective and a retail perspective is if you don't have your pencil sharpened on content to be near perfect, odds are you're not going to get the SEO. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, again, where ratings and reviews come in, because if someone's standing in front of an aisle that has 300 beer SKUs in front of them and they're trying to choose what to buy, they're going to look at those ratings and reviews and the content and make their decision right there in that second using almost 100% digital content.
Can't agree more with you, Carolyn. The importance of both content, but backing it up with ratings and review. Like you say, once the content helps them find stuff, when they're in the decision-making process, they are making choices as one better than the other. And it is today's way of, one of the way of making choices is crowdsourced energy, which is what ratings and reviews is about. So all of this energy we just discussed, content, taking a deeper dive into ratings and reviews, search, is this the nature of how you are partnering with distributors to get them ready for this very same journey? Do they have a need on the digital commerce side?
Absolutely. So, our journey with distributors has certainly been an interesting one. And the biggest thing that we're focused on today is education. we've come a super long way in helping our distributors understand that what we're doing with e-commerce is really trying to strengthen the overall sales of our products and their sales of our products. And we need to make sure that they're aware of what we're doing, but then we need to find ways to help them participate in e-commerce. So to your point, we're trying to build ways to educate them and then enable them. And when COVID hit, this was a critical moment for us in terms of our communication with distributors, because it was critical that we help them understand how we can help local retailers enable e-commerce opportunities. So we did things like build out a Drizzly retailer onboarding toolkit that a wholesaler sales rep could take into a store and share with that retailer. We would share the Drizzly store list to make sure that our great products are in stock in those stores where people are shopping online. We're identifying what retailers are listed on Instacart. We're helping them understand what's the landscape of other large retailers, who's participating in e-commerce, in what ways, so that they can make sure that our products were in stock. Having these products in stock is the only way that we're going to be able to sell. And so we holistically, we 100% rely on our distributor network to help us enable our e-commerce priorities. And what we're doing to try and build that up for them is we've started a monthly educational session with sort of self-selected e-commerce designates that have been selected at the majority of our distributor partners. For those that are not as familiar, we have 500 independent distributor partners across the U.S. who sell our products and deliver our products into our retailers every single day. And so we need to make sure that these e-commerce designates both have enough information to activate at a local level, but also so they can take the information and educate their broader organizations, right? We need to make sure that not just this, whether it's a social media manager or a retailer manager who's that e-com designate, they need to be able to educate the general manager of the distributorship. They need to be able to educate, the sales director for various different channels, for large format, for small format, on what's going on. So that's been a really critical part of our journey. And we need to make sure also that they understand that e-commerce is not stagnant. It's changing all the time. So we're constantly trying to build this process so that, as I mentioned, we can empower them to both keep our brands in stock, especially in these these e-retailers, but we also want to enable them. A lot of distributors are becoming very digitally savvy. They're launching their own digital media in their local markets with brands and using context that's locally relevant. And so we want to make sure that we can empower them to leverage these local media channels to make investments that will drive to commerce endpoints or retailer endpoints, in particular in markets where it's legal. Of course, it's not legal across everywhere. So that's another unique thing about the beer industry and the bev alc industry as a whole is, whereas a lot of the rules around e-commerce are nationally sort of mandated for different retailers and different brands. For the bev alc space, it's like having 50 different countries because each state can dictate the nature of their sort of alcohol beverage laws and what we can do both from an activation standpoint as well as a digital marketing standpoint.
So if I heard you correctly, somewhere in there you said you actually built a digital kit or tool book or some sort of a playbook that you can actually give to your distributor partners. Is that true? And it started with Drizzly?
Yeah, that's right. It started with Drizzly, and we've started to expand it out to include other e-retailers or e-marketplaces to help our distributors, help retailers. There's a lot of independent retailers that sell beverage alcohol in our industry. And so it's really important for us to make sure that we're empowering not just the big national retailers, but also those local retailers who we know are great advocates and great sellers of our products.
Do you also cover search in those, or do you keep it strictly to like content and ratings and reviews and other capabilities?
So primarily that toolkit was initially just to help retailers onboard into an app like a Drizzly. But what we're trying to do now, what I was kind of explaining at the end, is we're in the process of creating a way for distributors to enable that localized off-site content and on-site content.
Before we continue with this week's episode, a brief message about Next Up.
Next Up is a growing community of over 14,000 professionals representing nearly 900 organizations across North America, all devoted to advancing women in business.
Make sure to register for the virtual event called Beyond Allies, The Power of Empathy, occurring on Tuesday, August 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, which explores the power of empathy as leaders and allies. For more information on how to get involved with Next Up, visit nextupisnow.org/CPG guys. And don't forget to tune in to the Advancing All Women podcast on Voice America, hosted by Next Up President and CEO Sarah Alter. Listen every Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel, with rebroadcasts weekly on the Voice America Influencers Channel, and of course download episodes after they air wherever you get your podcasts.
And remember, visit nextupisnow.org/CPG guys to learn more about becoming a member of Next Up.
And now, back to our episode in progress.
Let me remind our audience that we're speaking to Carolyn Brown, head of digital commerce at Anheuser-Busch. So nothing can be successful if you don't have people around you and you're collaborative and leverage the teams around you and learn from each other's success and deliver. So I'm curious, how have you focused on building a team? What does your team specifically focus on? Are you guys strategy? Are you execution? How do you work with sales teams, etc.?
It's a great question. And it's one of those things where at AB, we are an extremely people-first organization, and e-commerce is very unique within that. And so when I was initially building out the team in 2018, when I took on my current role, I actually primarily looked outside of AB because we needed to bring in a new perspective, a disruptive way of thinking. And it was kind of scary for us to do. Often AB sources talent from internally for very good reason. We hire great folks, right out of undergrad. But, as we progressed and we became more advanced in e-commerce, but we also discovered the nuances of knowing and understanding the beer industry, I actually shifted to a more hybrid model. So we needed to bring in a combination of people with beer sales and marketing expertise from inside AB, but continue to balance that out with folks that are coming from outside. And one of the biggest opportunities for us, and what we did a lot of recently, was bring in folks who have actually worked on the retailer side or on the e-retailer side of things. So we could build more effective strategy and joint business planning around what makes retailers tick. What are the retailers' goals? And looking at, what is my team primarily focused on? The majority are focused on the executional side of things. So we have our e-retail key account managers. They work directly with retailer digital teams on building on-site programming, media plans, but they partner very closely with our in-store team. So we're really trying to create that omnichannel effect. But we also have a bunch of strategic folks. So we have our e-category leadership team. We look at e-commerce insights, and we also do a lot of education for both our internal and external stakeholders. So a big part of our overall strategy is to gain more share of mind by delivering, the education on what it is we're trying to accomplish.
That, of course, Carolyn, is your team and the immediate people you work with, but the company, not everybody is tasked with this learning and being savvy in the digital journey, though the whole company, it appears, is now on an omnichannel mission. So how do you partner with those who are distanced from your team and are not specifically working every day with your team? Like, how's that knowledge sharing exercise being done? Are you acting as a COE?
So we've really taken on both the role of COE as well as that executional side, as I mentioned before. So because we have the digital insights team and we're actively sharing those internally and externally, but we also have those eCams and other folks who are actively executing the programs and partnering with retailer digital teams. So we do our best to both educate and empower our cross-functional partners, because we really wouldn't be able to activate against e-commerce without them. So as that COE, we're partnering with brand teams to bring brand programming to life on the digital shelf with on-site media, off-site media that can drive to retail where it's legal. And of course, that means working hand in hand with the media team as well. They're a big partner of ours, and especially this year, we've really shifted our strategy to partner with the media side of things. And then we also, of course, partner super closely with our channel, retailer, and region teams to understand what are the retailers' omni-channel and e-commerce goals, right? We have, many folks that are ingrained day in and day out on location with a lot of retailers, and we want to work with them so that we can deliver on the strategy they're building, but deliver the best possible omni-channel strategy content digital category leadership has been a big focus for us. And then we, of course, also partner in a big way with our business and wholesaler development team. So we talked a little bit about the 3-tier system and the importance of our wholesaler partners, because we want to make sure that we can educate our field sales and wholesalers teams so they understand our efforts in e-commerce and e-retail are really aimed at helping to overall sell more volume for our total business.
Don't we love that word, sell more volume, aka incremental volume? That's my day job as well. So I love that you guys are acting as a COE as well and not just hoarding the knowledge just for yourself and like spreading this wealth of what is new knowledge that's shaped in the last decade in the industry. And you couldn't have taken on this new role at a more pivotal, important time in the change of the CPG and retail industry. So keeping that in mind, I just said pivotal time. Last 2 years have completely changed how everybody looks at the omnichannel journey in e-commerce. What are key learnings you've had yourself or Anheuser-Busch has had in the last couple of years that you would give as advice to others to actually follow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's a couple of key learnings that come to mind. There's a whole bunch more. And I always joke that if someone just asked me what I did and what are we trying to accomplish, I could literally talk for days. But keeping it kind of concise, I'll talk about four key learnings that come to mind. So the first is that e-commerce isn't a channel that stands alone, right? Without connectivity across omni-channel strategy, integration into commercial planning, buy-in from brand teams, it would be impossible for us to build awareness and market share for our brands online. So that's a huge one. That's first and foremost in my mind. The second really is around optimized investment. We've talked a bit about, the media investment that we're starting to make, and it's not necessarily about the sheer value of the investment, but where and how we're optimizing across platforms. We all know that money doesn't grow on trees. So we need to make sure that we're looking at on-site placements, off-site media opportunities, and really investing with those partners that are willing to give us something in return, right? Who will work with us to truly achieve joint KPIs and goals. So that's a big piece of what we've learned over the past 2 years. The third is, don't underestimate the power of digital content and the digital shelf. I won't go on another diatribe about this, but consumers and shoppers are using the digital shelf as an everyday source of information. So it's critical to make sure that brand content is really pristine and up to date on that digital shelf. And then the final thing is that you need to build a multifunctional team to support e-commerce. You can't just have e-commerce expert. You can't just have brand experts. In order to win, you need a diverse range of talent. You need to encourage people to take on new challenges, encourage those opposing viewpoints. There's no right and wrong answers, especially in e-commerce and omnichannel. And sharing both key wins and failures within your team is super important, because we need to learn from both our key accomplishments as well as from mistakes that we've made, because e-commerce is still a new front we're taking on.
How cool, Carolyn. We've talked the fact that e-commerce cannot stand alone. It's all about omni-channel. It's got to be part of integrated and well into commercial planning, because you are trying to drive volume for your distributors in this case, the retailer at the end of the day, things of that nature. Optimizing investments is key. Therefore, your partnerships on the media side are equally important, and that you hold everything accountable to a KPI and with goals at the end of the day. And then the digital shelf, I think we've talked enough about the importance of content and how it's a starting point. And then without people, none of this would be possible. But I also realize you're working in a category where there are a lot of restrictions, or it's just tough to work on the digital side because engaging with the consumer directly is probably hard. So what is the definition of hard? Like, what are those challenges, and then what is your role in navigating them?
Yeah, there's a number of different challenges, and every industry is different and faces their own unique challenges. For us, really the first is a lot of the regulatory restrictions that are prohibiting us, and it's due to 3-tier and due to the nature of our distribution network, but also the nature of the way that states kind of look at the beverage alcohol regulation. Currently, we're prohibited from investing directly with retailers, and so sometimes because we can't come to the table with a large investments with, these new retailer media networks that are popping up, this sometimes causes beer or bev alc to be deprioritized within retailer websites. There's a finite number of spots for digital promotion, and they typically go to the highest bidder. And that's just the reality that retailers are working within today as well. And, I don't fault that to anyone. We're all trying to do our jobs and hit our KPIs. But that said, we've worked together with several major retailers to help them understand and bring stories around shopper insights and the idea of beer as a basket builder that they can share with their leadership teams about why bev alc is so important and should still be prioritized in ways where it's possible, despite the fact that they don't get ad revenue from those spots. And we have been successful in a lot of cases in bringing that story forward because at the end of the day, a lot of people buy beer, and it's a huge category for these retailers. And then the second challenge that I'll talk about is on the other side of things, our shoppers, our consumers. Because we don't have a direct consumer business, we have a difficult time gaining access to good sources of consumer data, shopper data, and sales data and insights. And, of course, we buy into data sources like IRI and Numerator, direct from retailer, where they allow us to get that data shared, marketplace data, of course, but we really have a gap in terms of that one-to-one relationship with our shoppers and with our consumers. So, we do conduct surveys and research, and we partner with our brand teams to understand what are the consumer habits related to different brand segments. And moving into the future, we're working together and partnering with our consumer insights team to gain more access to that consumer data and shopper data in the future. But it does remain something where we're very sensitive to the fact that we don't have that one-to-one sort of personal relationship with our consumers. So we hope to gain more first-party data in the near future, but it's certainly something that's a barrier for us today.
Carolyn, congratulations on all the success and explaining and kind of getting into quite a bit of detail about how you're preparing Anheuser-Busch to be ready for this, already well on the journey of being ready for this omnichannel journey. But here's the unplanned, unscripted question of the day that since Peter's not here, I can throw in, or he would have told me not to because he wants me to be nice. And that is, what advice would you give others who get out of Princeton, get out of college with a history and arts degree? Would you tell them to follow the career path you have, which is cross-functional, take risks, be willing to take jobs that are unconventional and then end up a leader like you? Or would you tell them to follow one strict career path? What is your advice for them?
I would say that every person's unique, but to not shy away of the direct question, I absolutely would give the advice to get as much cross-functional experience as possible. I think that there is so much to be learned in any industry, not just CPG, about customers and about shoppers and about, the digital transformation journey that we're on. I think that there's a lot of roles out there that, tend to take on, because of their titles, more traditional thought processes. But I actually believe that moving into the future, roles at any company need to be more and more cross-functional. And so I think those leadership roles, the CMO role, the chief sales officer role, the chief commercial officer, even chief digital officer, those roles are no longer taken on by people who've only had one track of experience, right? The chief commercial officer of the future, has experience in marketing, in sales, maybe even in a supply capacity, supply chain, working in e-commerce, working in the digital realm. The CMO role is so different today than it was 10 years ago. It's not just someone from a traditional, brand background and brand experience. It's really about making sure that you're understanding deeply and listening to consumer needs, driving innovation, things like that. So all that's to say, I think the path of taking risks, I think calculated, smart risks are always the best. But at the end of the day, try to do something that you wake up every day and you feel challenged by. I think there's a lot to be said for continuing to feel challenged, even when you're out of that formal learning environment of, a school, whether that's undergrad or a graduate degree. Continue to do something that's going to help you learn and feel challenged every single day.
Carolyn, that's what happens when you get a great guest. You not only do you get answers to questions and what's going on in the industry, you get great advice. Double bonus. Thank you for that and taking the unscripted question. Let me remind our audience that you can find all of our content. Simply go to a browser, type cpgguys.com. Yes, it's that easy. And if you think your company has some thought leadership to contribute to our community, all you have to do is drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com, and maybe you can join us on the podcast. Don't forget to drop us a rating and a review. How you can do that is now you only have to go to cpgguys.com. On the top navigation bar at top, you'll find the ability to do that. Why I ask you for that? The rating tells us how we're doing. The review tells us what you want to see on the show, who you like on the show. Are we getting the content right? Because at the end of the day, you shape the show. Thank you for the 14K plus followers on LinkedIn. We know that's a very large number. Peter and I deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate it, and for all the love and followership you've shown to us over the last couple of years we've done this podcast. Carolyn, thank you so much for appearing on the podcast.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. And I know you guys are baseball guys, so let's go Cardinals.
I haven't followed the Cardinals, to be honest, but it's one of the stadiums I haven't been to. So at some point, because it's different leagues, the Yankees and the Cardinals will never play outside of the World Series. But hopefully there will be a World Series somewhere in the future, because I know the Yankees are going this year. So the last question of the day, Carolyn, are the Cardinals going to meet the Yankees in the World Series this year?
They might.
There we go.
They might. They're doing pretty well.
And that's what a true fan always says. Thank you so much, Carolyn. And folks, that's it for this episode of the CPG Guys. See you soon.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.